So I just finished my college career as an 11.3 UTR, and apparently that puts me in the top 500 tennis players in the United States. And today I'm going to break down my entire journey from when I started when I was 4 years old, all the way till now when I was 22. I've counted and I've played about 535 competitive UTR matches in my entire career. So today I'm going to break down exactly what worked and what didn't work throughout my entire 17-year journey as a tennis player. And really quick, if any of this resonates with you, you're either a parent or a junior looking to improve your UTR. I'm working with a small bunch of students trying to help increase their UTR. So just shoot me a DM, DM me ready on Instagram, and I'll reach right out. Awesome. Let's get straight into it. First things first is let's go all the way back to 2013 where my career started. This is when I was about 11 years old, and really when I started to get into competing. I've played since I was 4 or 5, just doing like red ball tournaments, stuff like that. But this was the year I started playing actual competitive tournaments. Before that, it was a lot of round robin and stuff like that. But yeah, going through it, this is my first year as a competitive tennis player. Obviously, being a lot smaller than most players and being new to this competition thing, got destroyed a good bit. And honestly, I had no idea what I was really doing out there, but this was really important for my development because honestly, this really just got me used to the competition. Everything you do in practice is completely different once you get into a real pressure situation in a match. So that's what this year was for. It was kind of just getting my feet wet, playing a bunch of players that were older than me. If you see, I'm getting destroyed in a lot of these tournaments. Starting to actually get better results, but yeah, I was 11 years old. Really, if I'm honest, if you're a son, daughter, or whoever is 11 years old, it doesn't really matter. Honestly, the biggest thing I want them to focus on is developing the right habits and, more importantly, having fun. I think when I was 11, and you'll see pretty soon when I was 12, is we just focused primarily on results, right? And although that's great, became way too much of a focus where I would start to develop bad habits just to get that match win. So let's get into 2014. I think at this time I was, actually no, I think 2013 I was 10. 2014 I was 11 years old, turning 12. And this is the year I really got into competing. As you see here, I played 83 matches that year. And yeah, just a ton of matches. And looking back, I think it was way too much. But me and my dad, we had no clue. I would just love tennis so much, and we just thought like more was better. So my dad would just sign me up for everything. These were national tournaments that I was traveling for. Honestly, not a bad year. Got decent results. Playing, again, some of the best players in the country at the time. So not a bad year at all. But realistically, I'm sure you might recognize some of these names, like Ryan Fishback, one of the best doubles players I've ever played against. But these guys were all bigger than me. I played some 14s tournaments as well when I was 11. Truthfully, do not have your kid play this many tournaments. I was pretty much playing, like May 4th, May 11th, May 18th, May 26th. I was playing a tournament every single weekend. It's way too much, to be honest. I never honestly even took a step back to really reflect on what happened during these matches. It was just like kind of, oh, that happened, I lost, I got cheated, whatever. Next, on to the next tournament, right? So I really recommend like taking a step back, actually reflecting on what happened, and not just signing up for tournament after tournament after tournament just because. Although it's super important, of course, to go out there and compete, there's a balance, right? You want your kid, or if you're a kid watching this, you want to have a career that is sustainable, that lasts, right? The best players in the world, they had a sustained improvement over 10, 15, 20, 25 years. For me, it was like 1 or 2 years all out, and then I burnt out, quit tennis, and you'll see that in a second. So yeah, again, an insane amount of matches. I would play this tournament, 5 matches here, and then boom, another tournament the next week and get destroyed, right? I was exhausted. If you look, I was getting pretty good results. I think this was another national tournament. Again, playing some of the best players in the country week after week. I think it's really good experience. Semifinals here. Just a lot of tournament. Just keep going. Yeah, again, I know this was another national. And again, another thing is this is not sustainable. So much traveling, so much playing against like the top players in the country and the world, honestly. It's not sustainable. If you look back to now, this is when I was 12, I think probably one of my best years. But again, this is 95 matches I played in a year. Again, I think Max plays for Arizona. These are some of the best players, in the country at the time and even now. I know a lot of these tournaments are nationals. And again, this is where I had another really, really good year, but all we focused on was the results. I never even took a step back to realize like what was happening during these matches. I just knew that I could push better than all of these people. And, at the time it was okay because nobody would actually attack, the way that you're able to when you're 14, 15, 16. So again, this is me beating Michael Zhang, he won a round in Grand Slam, and he's the best college player arguably right now. I beat him 6-2, 6-0, right? This is what I'm saying. Stop focusing so much on the results when they're 12, like 10, 11, 12, anything before that, right? And just focus on their development and actual long-term growth. Again, all we cared about was the results at the moment. Again, this led to bad habits. I was just tapping in my serve because I knew, again, they wouldn't attack it because we're 10, 11, 12. Of course, here's me, again, getting to the finals of some nationals, beating the top players. But again, all we're focusing on is just playing a ton of matches and the result, right? Not much development was done. This is me playing Nishesh, me being Ryan Colby, another top college player right now, right? Just focusing a lot on the result. I'm sure you see a common pattern here. These are all national tournaments as well. Never got a chance to actually practice the things that were failing me during the matches and rewatching what was actually happening. It was just play. And this is why I really insist on working with students to actually develop a custom training plan, but also a feedback loop, right? A lot of students, they don't have a feedback loop in place. So they're just over and over and over again doing the wrong habits over and over and over again. They don't actually look at what happened that previous match and oh, this failed me, this went well, that went bad. I want to practice more of that because that was bad. I want to double down on this because my forehand cross was my strength. That's my game. For example, I was pushing in my second serve a lot. I never actually took a step back to realize that because I had a tournament the next week, or and I never even watched back any of the matches I ever played. So record these matches, install a feedback loop, get actual feedback on the things you're doing, right? So it's not enough to just be going in and training and hitting balls week after week. I have hit plenty of balls in my career, and this is Samir being a 14 UTR, and I ended up at an 11.3. Obviously, 11.3 is still a great UTR. I'm very proud of that. But, if I took a step back to look at the bigger picture of my career, which obviously I didn't, I was 12. So a lot of this is up to the parent as well, or the coach. I would say more so the coach than the parent. When the parent gets too into the weeds, that's when, sometimes a negative relationship can develop. So this is a lot to do with the coach's methodology and actually focusing on the students, which is typically not, a thing in the academy system, right? You're just going in, hourly lessons, one-off hourly lessons, going home, feeding balls, that's it, right? That was when I was 12. I think 2016 was when I was 13. Again, another, 84 matches this year. This was probably one of my best results. This was me getting to the semifinals of Winter Nationals. So I ended up getting a fourth place at almost a bronze ball at Winter Nationals, playing against some of the best players in the country. I beat Braden Schick 6-0, 6-2. He's one of the best college players right now. beating Evan Wen, and then losing to Nishesh in the semifinals. Again, like, all focused on results when I was 12, and of course, that matters. We ended up burning out pretty soon, or I say we, like me and my dad, because he traveled like crazy. I traveled like crazy. I played like crazy. I never got a break because think about this. I'm playing Monday through Friday, training every day, and then traveling for these tournaments every weekend. Just way too much. Again, similar. This was, I'm sure a lot of you have seen this. This is me beating Learner Tien 6063. This was around the peak of my career, was when I was at that 12, 13 range. Again, because we were focusing a lot on the short term, right? We weren't taking a step back and realizing like, oh, maybe I shouldn't be pushing and just tapping in my second serve. I was really focusing on just how I can get wins right now. And of course, I'm 12, right? I know nothing better. And you see this is where things start to catch up, right? Michael beats me 6-1, 6-0 when just a year or two earlier, I beat him 6-2, 6-0, right? Again, I started to lose a bit of guidance here. I think I had a couple injuries, not this year, but I think it was around maybe next year or the year after. But yeah, again, like, I think it was this year. Right? As you can see, almost about half the matches was played this year because I ended up getting a really bad back injury, which honestly, looking back, I'm not surprised about because, again, if we're playing 40 tournaments in a 52-week year, right, it's just way too much with all the travel and the national play. It's just way too much for not only the kid, the student, but the parent to keep up with as well. So again, this is where things started to catch up. I'm 14 years old. I'm still competing at a very high level. Like, this is me at hard courts beating Jake Krug and beating Thomas Navarro and losing to Luke Casper. So again, still competing with some of the best players in the world at my age. I think this was hard courts, but if you see August 5th here, just started to slow down a bit. I think not even this year, it might have been the year after. This is when I'm starting to play 16s tournaments. Again, I was around 14 years old, 13, 14 years old. I think around right here, 2018, started to play a lot less. Again, still competing at a high level. This is Nicholas Heng, one of the best players in the world right now as well, in the country at least. But yeah, right here is where I started to get a lot of injuries. Injuries started to really take over my career because I focused a lot on just playing, not resting ever. So again, just sheer amount of reps, sheer amount of volume is not enough to become a top player, right? I want to emphasize that enough. I want you to really focus on, if you're either a student or you're a parent of one watching this, please focus on doing the actual right things and right reps. Stop caring about your tournament results all the time, right? All I cared about was I beat this guy and he beat that guy beat this guy, so that means I'm gonna beat that guy, right? Nobody cares. Just focus on yourself as a player, what you could be working on, what you can be improving. All I cared about was what other people were doing. If I could beat that guy, if I could beat that guy. The top players in the world, they at least had mentors that knew the path, right? Like Learner Tien, of course, he's 6, 7, 8 years old. He doesn't know the path, but he has mentors that are able to walk him through what it's like to become a pro tennis player, right? So they know that when you're 7, 8, 9 years old, 10, 11, 12, wins are not the main priority, right? And again, that's why I'm really emphasizing that. Wins are not the priority when you're 10, 11, 12, maybe even 13 years old, right? It's developing the game for when you actually grow into a bigger frame. This is where, played 42, 43 matches. Again, burnout was starting to hit. Injuries were starting to settle in. Just way too much, way too early in my career. And then by 2019, again, 47 matches, way too much, way too early. I think this is me recovering from my injury. I was out for about like 8, 9 months. And then here, played January, and then played again in April. If you look here, lost 5-0. Right. This is where things really started to slow down in my career. And honestly, looking back, this is probably the most important part of your career, that 14, 15, 16 range, because that's when you actually start to develop like real weapons, and you're starting to actually play against, not fully men yet, but that's where you're getting. When you're 12, when you're 13, nobody really has that weapon, right? You can push, you can get away with that. But once you're 14, 15, 16, this is when you actually need to start focusing on developing the right habits. And that's why the things you do 11 and 12, this is where it really starts to show up. When I was 11, 12, I was just focusing on pushing, getting the ball in. But now I get injured, I come back around 14, 15, and I'm like, wow, the things I was doing before, tapping in my second serve, pushing, they don't work anymore. They get punished, right? So if you take a look here, it's the results are starting to fall a little. Things I was doing when I was 12 again were not working when I was 14, 15. And, still competing at a pretty good level, but injuries really harmed me at this point. Again, only played a couple of tournaments this year. Got to the semifinals of one of like a national as well. Beat like Nicholas Godsick, but honestly, that was just through pure like experience and knowing how to compete. But in terms of actually having the level really started to drop here, and injuries really started to settle in. And this, again, I'm gonna emphasize this so much. It's all because I just focused on sheer reps, sheer volume when I was 12, 13. And it really harmed my long-term growth because I could not sustain it mentally and physically. I was completely burnt out. I quit tennis when I was 14 for 10 months. And then I ended up getting injured for 10 months as well. So that's basically a year and a half that I just was out. If you look at 2020, again, not a great year for me. And again, these are the pivotal times right before college. I think I was around 16 here. 16, 17, starting to talk to colleges, and my results were the worst they were in my entire career, right? Again, because I was focusing on results and everything in the beginning of my career. All my emphasis was around 12 years old, and we completely burnt out, right? Just at this point, my mental game was completely out the door. I really disliked tennis, to be completely honest. If you look here, just loss after loss after loss. It was really taking a toll on me. And, all the pressure and expectations I put on myself as a 12-year-old really started to settle in. Again, I want to emphasize this. If you're a kid or you're watching this, you're 12, prioritize having fun, right? You want to be doing this for a long time. You want to be doing this for as long as possible. The moment you lose the passion to just be out there on the court is the moment your career starts to fade, right? Like the top players in the world, they got there because they just wanted to spend time on the court. They didn't really care, maybe they did, but like they got there because of their genuine curiosity and their willingness to just be out there for the sake of being out there, right? I know that feeling from when I first started tennis. I was out there on the court and I wanted to learn everything about being the best player I could just because, right? Like that was it, just because. There was no like expectations of because I had to be go to a top D1 college and get a scholarship, or I had to do this, or I had to do that. I just was out there on the court just because, right? And once you accept that you're just out there on the court because you love it and there's nothing else that matters, that is when, I'm not even kidding, you will get your best results. If you look over, again, once I got into college, some injuries settled in again. But I think around 2020, my last senior year, I was just out there on the court just because, and I went 16-2, right? I lost my last two matches, but beating some pretty solid players like a 10-6-7, again another 10-6-7, 10-3 pretty easily, 10-8 pretty easily, and 11-3, right? Honestly, like a 10-6. Honestly, my senior year was where I really started to just understand kind of the secrets to competing at a high level. And I honestly played the least that I ever played in my entire career and put the least amount of pressure I ever did. I was just out there just because I knew I was gonna miss the sport and I was just having fun. When you're out there and you're having fun, you're gonna just do things just because, right? I want to emphasize that concept again and again, just because, right? These are the best results that I've had in quite a while, right? Ever since I was like 12, 13, right? Just beating players from MIT and a D1 college as well, right? Some pretty high level players. 16-2 my senior year, and if you look at my stats, yeah, like right before my senior year, I was around like 10-5, 10-6, and ended at 11.3 in like 1 or 2 seasons, right? That has nothing to do with how I had much more practice or any of that. Like the summer between my junior and senior year, I didn't play at all. The only thing I changed was my mental game around tennis and how I approach competing. And it just makes the game that much simpler. So yeah, if you're a kid that's going through the process right now or a parent of one, just go out there, enjoy the sport. You know, if you're looking for a coach, you can reach out to me. I really emphasize helping you guys build out an actual custom game plan instead of just trying to figure it out aimlessly week by week, because that's what I did, and I never really zoomed out to the bigger picture. And that's what I help tennis players, junior tennis players do, is really zoom out in the bigger picture, help you guys improve your UTR and have fun doing it. So if that sounds interesting at all to you and you want to learn from my journey and the things that I've learned along the way, just feel free to reach out and DM me ready, and we'll have a little conversation on Instagram. I'll put the link in the description below. And yeah, I hope this video helps, and go out there, have fun, and I'll see you in the next YouTube video.